Hello, and welcome to Impera Project, a project built on a dream. One day, a man was traveling from Jerusalem when he was attacked by robbers. They stole all of his possessions and beat him, leaving him to die. A priest walked the same road, but when he saw the man naked and bleeding, he passed by on the other side. So too did a Levite, yet a Samaritan took pity, bandaged his wounds, then carried the injured man to an inn where he paid the owner to personally look after the wounded man until his return. Jesus asked, "Which of these three do you think was a good neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers?" The one who was asked replied, "The Samaritan, because he had mercy." Jesus told him, "Go and do likewise." If this story sounds familiar to you, it is the parable of the Good Samaritan from the Bible. But why did we decide to start this video with this particular story? Today we are going to talk about a very interesting aspect of Western life and of us, Europeans, and this can apply as well to the Americans. Christianity is a concept that has profoundly influenced our society, our worldviews and our myths since the days of the Roman Empire. When you say Europe, you say Christianity and its many denominations. Today we are going to talk about an acute problem. How do we see the poor and how we behave towards someone that is poor? How we behave towards a beggar or someone that cannot earn their bread by themselves. But before we start this video, we would appreciate it if you'd press that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, leave a like and a share if you enjoy our content. In the last weeks, this channel has experienced a beautiful influx of new people, which makes us really happy. With that out of the way, let's start discussing. Capitalism taught us that nothing is impossible, that if you are born poor but work extremely hard, you yourself can be the next Jeff Bezos. We were told that capital does not discriminate and that the hoarding of capital is accessible to anyone that is willing to sacrifice their health, their mental state, their family, or simply their time mopping the floor for a corporation that makes n times more money than what it pays its employees. All of these are happening while education becomes less and less available for all the people, while it becomes more political by the day, and a new form of segregation arises from the ashes of the now so loosely defined middle class.
Best midnight snack while you're brainstorming?
I'm asleep at midnight.
That's important, isn't it? That's really good. A guy like you actually gets...
We were told 4 years ago that 17 million people went to bed hungry each night. Well, that was probably true. They were all on a diet.
There is no such thing as public money. There is only taxpayers' money.
If you are poor, you commit a moral offense to yourself, to your children, and to the society as a whole. Shame on you, poor man, for trying your best and not managing to apply the same principle of exploitation and slavery on others as others have done on you. But how did we get into such a predatory mentality? How did we manage to get into such a state of lack of empathy that we are feeling entitled to say to the Africans that they are poor, their children will be poor, their grandchildren as well, and it is only their fault? The capitalist doctrine says that this is our nature, therefore this has always been the case, yet some people just pretend to be otherwise. Let's see how people treated the poor before Christianity arrived in Europe. In his most representative work, The Republic, Plato argues for a system of governance where philosophers, the guardian of society, would hold power and make decisions for the betterment of the whole community. Plato proposes that the city should provide for all its citizens basic needs, including food, shelter, and education, thus eradicating poverty and preventing social inequality. In a dialogue between Socrates and Glaucon, Plato explores the implications of wealth accumulation and the potential conflict it can generate within the city-state. Plato suggests that as some individuals seek to acquire more for the sake of money, a division between the wealthy and the traditionalists may arise. The consequences of this division is the impoverishment of one part of the city, leading to social tensions and the potential for conflict. So, when some people have too much and others have too little, a state of conflict is a palpable outcome of any interaction between the two parties. Going further to the Roman Empire, a great emphasis was put on helping the poor. Many reforms and programs of assistance and support for the poor were implemented with a different rate of success. Probably the most basic of them was the so-called Annona, a program in which free grain was transported to the poor in an attempt to ensure food security for the population. Of course, we can talk a lot about the public works such as public baths, aqueducts, and public buildings that not only served the empire but also provided employment for those in need. As you can see, even before Christianity arrived in Europe, the ancient giants agreed upon the need to alleviate poverty as much as possible, be it from moral or objective reasons. The Romans, especially under the influence of the Stoics, cared for the poor. The Greeks, taking into account civil unrest, cared as well. Marcus Aurelius noted in his journal, "When you have done well to others, you have done well to yourself, and to relieve others' distress is to relieve your own." Us, as human beings, we are connected. There is no one in this world that can live solely for himself. We need to start acting and working together if we want to survive. And especially in our current situation, the good of one is often the bad of another. Coming back to Marcus Aurelius, we have to face the idea that what is not good for the hive is not good for the bee. Now, in the year 313 AD, the great emperor Constantine proclaimed the Edict of Milan, in which Christians, after almost 3 centuries of persecution, were officially tolerated and accepted as a part of the Roman Empire. Constantine himself converted. Don't get us wrong, we are not taking the side of religion, but we believe that, at the very least, on some aspects, if one cannot define his or her own set of values, then religion might be a good place to start. Religion in itself is a system of basic moral values that can help someone who cannot find a better system. It is sometimes better to have a believer than to have a murderer on the streets. But especially on this idea of helping the poor, Christianity takes an interesting approach. You have to understand that the cult of the victim is extremely prevalent in Christianity, and the Bible and the holy teachings will most of the time take the side of the weakest entity in an argument, which is not bad. It is actually a coherent stance to take. It all came down from the well-known passage found in the Gospel of Matthew. "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." This maxim alone decides that those who have suffered most during their life will be the most rewarded. Christianity is after all a religion built on suffering, which has appeared in a historical moment of pain. There are way too many quotes from the Bible related to this topic, but we will give you some. Suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, "Go in peace, keep warm and well fed," but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? Sell your possessions and give to the poor. Provide purses for yourselves that will not wear out, a treasure in heaven that will never fail, where no thief comes near and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will also be. Of course, these are extreme versions. Nobody asked you to give everything you worked for to the poor. But we like to think that all of us together can work to create a future in which only fate decides inequality. A lot of people tell us that you cannot create a world where everyone is equal. And they are right. The arbitral inequalities are always going to be present, and fate decides everyone's story as it sees fit. But all we want is to create a world where we, as human beings, do not create any more inequality than there already is. So, to answer the question, if from the ancient times the helping of the poor was always promoted for one reason or another, why today do we treat the unlucky with so much hatred? It is hard to answer this question. On one side, we believe that something we call the paradox of suffering might be a reason. The paradox of suffering is a feeling that someone's lack of suffering invalidates your actual suffering. We have suffered, so you should too. This goes hand in hand with the myth of the self-made millionaire who, through hard work and sacrifices, has lifted himself out of the dirt and now can overindulge in everything that he lacked in his early time. If someone suffered enough and now he lives a good life, that means his experience is universal and everyone can do it, right? No. Someone's personal experience belongs only to himself and cannot be easily applied to everyone. On the other side, there is a deliberately existent unemployment pool made on purpose by the companies. If you have a lot of poor people that cannot make a month's end, then those people are more inclined to accept any type of work, be it underpaid or humiliating, and at the same time, people that are working are forced to compensate for this lack of employees by doing the job of more people while being scared with replacement if they protest. This is a terrible abuse which all of us have accepted. As long as we, the people, continue to keep our mouths shut, this situation will only worsen. This is enough for today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, share and subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you next time as well.